Life can change in an instant. Accidents happen, people get sick, and sudden job loss becomes a reality. Many people go through life saying, that will never happen to me, until it does. And then many people find themselves at a total loss, spiraling downward, unsure what to do, faced with adversity. On the other hand, then there are people like the Kip family, who take their misfortune by the horns, and using strength and determination, find a way to turn everything around and get their life back on track. Turning everything around requires creativity and thinking outside the box. And that's exactly what Abby and Eric Kip did when they were faced with misfortune, to get their life back on track and take their family from adversity back to normalcy. Several years ago, the Kip family was faced with sudden job loss, something that sadly millions of Americans today know all too well. And yet, using a little bit of ingenuity, they managed to get their family back to a really good place. So Abby and Eric, I wanted to talk to you guys about what happened and how you guys managed to go from sort of a really bad situation to making everything better for your family. But before we talk about that, I wanted to hear a little bit about sort of who you guys are as a couple and as a family, and just sort of how things happened, how you met, and how you kind of got to where you are today. So Abby, you want to tell me a little bit about you guys?
Sure. I was born and raised in a family with 13 kids.
Wow.
And we're a very close family. Yeah. And Eric was raised in a family where there's 7 kids.
Okay.
And we both were born and raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so that's really how we met each other, is through church. I was his sister's best friend, and he was my brother's best friend. And so we don't really remember each other until, late teenage years. And but as we look back at pictures, we were in each other's pictures growing up.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so we finally caught each other's eye and decided that we would get married.
Yeah.
And so what else?
We got married young, which was difficult, but I think our biggest thing that we had in our favor was our church and our faith and having the same foundation and beliefs, which helped us get us through the first hard couple of years.
Right. So faith has always been something that has been really, really important to you guys.
Yeah.
And is that
the basis?
And is that something that you have taught your children from the beginning, that to have faith and that faith is very important?
Definitely. I think one of the great things that has happened with us is that whenever we're having a problem, the kids know that they can say, "Mom, let's say a prayer," and
it's great.
It is. It's nice because they know that their Heavenly Father is mindful of them, and that He will hear and answer their personal prayer.
Yeah.
And so it's just nice that they understand that.
Right. So, Eric, take me back to a few years ago when things have been going well for you guys. Is that right? You were working.
I graduated in 2004 and was able to find employment and worked for 4 or 5 years, and then back in August of 2008, went into work one morning, and later that morning around 10, my boss, told me we'd just been bought out, told me that they really didn't need me any longer, and
wow.
So I was able to go home and take my kids to school, or pick them up from school and take them to school, so that was interesting.
Wow. So, I'm sitting here thinking, like, if someone called me into their office and said, okay, you don't have a job anymore, I think my first inclination would be go home, get into bed, cry, and never come out. I don't think that I would have the strength to deal with it, at least not right away. That's a horrible thing that you absolutely were not expecting that day. But that's not what you did, right?
Right.
So,
not an option.
Your kids are laughing, so clearly that's not what you did. So tell me about what those first few days and months were like for you guys. after you realized that you didn't have an income anymore?
I think it was shock at first, and obviously, you know, you can file for unemployment and things like that, so I really wasn't that concerned until a few months later after filling out, you know, application after application. I wasn't necessarily happy with what I was doing before anyway, and
But you had been able to support your family. I mean,
Right.
you guys had a really good life before, right?
yes,
Would you describe yourself as you were middle class before?
yes,
And you could
Mostly middle class.
go out to eat when you wanted,
Right.
if you wanted. You could buy your kids the things they needed.
Right.
Sometimes
Things they
extras, maybe go on vacation every once in a while.
right,
So you guys could do what most people want out of life. You were living the American dream, right?
right,
And then boom, you weren't.
right,
And I was very happy staying at home, being a mom. And when when this happened, I had already been signed up to be a substitute teacher for the Hazelwood School District, and so I immediately thought, well, I can just get more sub jobs to kind of fill in until Eric finds another job.
Right.
And that lasted a lot longer than I had hoped or anticipated.
Right.
So then it ends up getting to the point where he's at home with the kids when that's where I really want to be. So there's a little jealousy and
Was there anger?
anger.
Was there fighting?
Absolutely.
And how did you guys feel about having mom at work and dad at home?
Different.
Different? Did you like it? Did you not like it? It might be fun for a while to have dad at home, right? But then, did it stay fun? Did you miss mom?
Yeah.
You missed mom a lot. All right, so
And they're also used to me being in their class every day and helping out and walking them to school and walking them home. So it's just it was actually Abby's first day of kindergarten when this all happened. And so, you know, I was sad, you know,
Sure.
that I couldn't do what I had already done with Madeline when she was in kindergarten, first grade.
absolutely. And I mean, as a mom, I totally get that because my first priority is to be with my kids. And I can't imagine how hard it would be to want to be with them, and all of a sudden you're forced out into the workplace because your husband can't find a job.
Right.
And back home, you didn't have a job at this point. You were subbing, but that's not bringing in a lot of money. So how are things at home? I mean, money must have been dwindling. What was life like for you guys as the income had drastically decreased?
Where you're just trying to figure out what to do next. I mean, we were also really concerned about insurance for the kids, and we were worried about how we were going to pay this bill and that bill. And, you know, one of the things we had going for us as well was we had a very supportive family on both sides, Eric's family and my family. And they just kind of said, figure this out, you know, and if you need help, we'll help you. But obviously, you need to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps and get going, you know. So, Eric picked up odd jobs, and everybody knew he, you know, was out of a job, and so he started mowing lawns, and he started, you know, doing all these different things just to make ends meet.
Right.
Um,
But then ultimately, you had a revelation.
yeah.
You were at work, subbing, and all of a sudden, you thought, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Well, I knew I wanted to be a teacher before, but I always thought once my kids are all in school, that I'll go back to school. So I had a long-term sub position doing, helping kids. It was a Title I program, helping them learn how to read or get up to their reading level. And they had offered me the position, but I still was like holding on to the hope that my husband was going to find a job any day, and I was going to be at home. But in the meantime, I found real joy working with these kids because my kids were well enough off to have support at home to help teach them how to read, and weren't struggling in that area academically. And I went in one day and they said, we found someone who will take the job full time, kind of like my husband, you're no longer needed. And I thought I was going to go home, crawl in bed, and not come out for a while. And I was driving home thinking, okay, what am I waiting for? I need to go back to school.
And that's when your revelation occurred.
Yeah.
And we have to take a break right now, but when we come back, we will find out what exactly Abby's revelation was and how it affected not only her, but her husband and their entire family as well.